Did you know that you could live in a van without a driver's license? Did you also know that you can live in a van without insurance? Did you also know that you can live in a van without road tax, without MOT, or without servicing the vehicle? Yes, it's true, and I'm going to show you how you can do it in this video, and it will save you a fortune. Now, I've been living in my van for the last 2 years. I spent 18 months of my life living in London. I was turning up to my office job in Liverpool Street. I was coming home in the evening. My van was parked on a church ground in Mile End. I bought this van as an empty shell. I spent 18 months working on it every evening until I was finally in a position where I'd saved enough money by not paying rent and earning money from my job, putting it into the van where I could eventually quit my job and then go traveling the world, which is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm currently in Turkey, just outside of Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the main destinations that I wanted to come to along this journey. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to show you the cheat code to you saving a fortune. And it's really quite simple. Now, first, what I will tell you, this will only work if you are planning to live in your van in a static location. I did not drive my van in the 18 months that it was parked in London, in Mile End, on the church ground, and it will only work, you will only be able to do this method if you are not intending on driving the vehicle at all. It's as simple as this. When I bought my vehicle from Manchester. I drove from London, I picked it up from Manchester, and I drove it back. Now, there was an app that I used called Park for Night. It shows you all of the private parking spaces that people are hiring. What you will need to do is speak to the owner to see if they are okay with you living in your van on that land. That's why I would advise you to try and find an open piece of land. The church that I was living on, it was basically just a grass area, and there was no height restrictions. It was already kind of being used as a car park. It wouldn't really work if you're going to be using this on a driveway, because more than likely someone wouldn't want you living on their driveway, especially permanently, without moving the vehicle. But you can find these pictures because I did it. I've also got friends who are doing exactly what I'm talking to you about right now. So all you need to do is find a private piece of land. As long as you can find a private piece of land and the owner is happy for you to live in that vehicle on that land, then believe it or not, you do not have to insure the vehicle. You only need to insure a vehicle in the UK if you're going to be driving it on the road. That's the only way that you have to insure a vehicle. You also are going to declare the vehicle as SORN. So that means you do not have to pay road tax, and you don't have to pay road tax because it's not going to be on the roads, it's going to be on private land. You're obviously not going to be driving it, so also you do not need to MOT the vehicle, and that's exactly the same with servicing the vehicle. So this is an insane cheat code for people who basically want to save themselves a fortune. You can move out of your apartment, you can find a piece of private land, then if you do not want to drive the vehicle, or you're not intending on driving the vehicle, just leave it in this private pitch. Then you don't even have to pay insurance, you don't have to pay road tax, there's going to be no fuel costs, there's going to be basically no running cost to this vehicle whatsoever, and let's face it, they're the most expensive costs. Now, I am telling you, if I was a student that didn't drive, I've got a friend that has done exactly this. They quite literally used their student loans, instead of renting an apartment and paying the high rent prices, they bought a van, they put it on private land. So you can do this even if you're not old enough to drive a car. Obviously you need the money to buy the van. It's entirely up to you what kind of van that you buy. I bought my van, it cost me £7,250. You can buy a van that's more expensive or cheaper. That's entirely up to you. At the end of the day, all you need for this to work is for your van to be sufficient enough for you to live in. When I say sufficient enough, for me, I decided to get myself a box van because I'm 6'4" and I needed it to be tall enough. But at the end of the day, forget about the engine, forget about how the vehicle looks, Forget about how it performs, fuel economy, the age of the vehicle, how fancy it is, all this kind of stuff, because right at this moment, for this method, you do not care about this. All we're talking about is you saving as much money as possible, and then basically all you need a vehicle for now with this is purely so it is a box that puts a roof over your head, that you can park it on land. So you basically need to look at this almost like a static caravan or some kind of cabin that you're going to live in. And vehicles are extremely cheap, especially if they are old. Now, one thing that I would say to you with this as well, if you are planning to put money into the vehicle, just bear that in mind, because obviously I put about £13,000 into building my vehicle, but the truth is the electrical systems in these, that's the most expensive cost. It cost me about £4,000-ish. That's very expensive, but it's fully off-grid. I've got 650 watts of solar on the roof. I've got an inverter, 240 watt system, 12 volt system, fridges, everything, this kind of stuff. It obviously depends on how extreme you plan to go with the build, but one thing that I would advise to you guys, if you are planning to buy a vehicle to live in, and then you're also planning to invest in the vehicle for future purposes, just bear that in mind, because then obviously you don't really want to buy a crappy vehicle that's super old, rusty, all over the place, but it's just a nice box, and then you're going to pile a load of money into that, because at the end of the day, then you're just polishing a turd, as people like to say. You're putting a lot of money into something that's already pretty shit. That's not the smartest decision. But if you're not planning on putting much money into it, I literally started off living this life with just a mattress, some pillows in the back, and my clothes were literally hanging over the already built-in racks that this van had. You can continue living like that if you like. You can go showering at the gym. My girlfriend was doing exactly the same. You can go to the toilet at the pub. So there's ways that you can get around this. I was literally charging my phone, charging my tools and stuff like this at Wetherspoons in the evening. So there are ways that you can get around this. But I just wanted to share that last tip, so then you don't buy, a crappy old van just to live in it and save yourself a fortune, and then you put a load of money into it and you're putting a load of money into a crappy van. That's not a smart thing to do. But if you're just planning to live in the vehicle, you're not planning to drive it in the future, or you're just purely doing this to save money, then it's an extremely smart thing to do for you to save a fortune, and then you don't even have to spend much money. You could easily buy a van for £500 to £1,000. Thor's hammer is cracking behind us. You can easily buy a cheap van that doesn't cost much money, and then just stick a mattress in the back, live in it. Yes, it's going to be a challenge over the next year, whatever it is, but trust me, the amount of money that you would save, then you can either upgrade your van, buy a new van, or decide to do whatever else it is that you like to do. But at the end of the day, that's how you can save a fortune. I saved a fortune by just moving out of my apartment. I was obviously already driving. I went to collect the van and this kind of stuff. I was touring the UK. I'm now touring the world. So I was driving, but I've got friends since who are now doing this, and they've parked it on private land, and they're not paying insurance, which, let's face it, especially if you're younger, costs you a fortune. It's the main cost beyond buying a vehicle. Road tax, if the vehicle's older, it's going to have not an efficient engine, so it's going to cost you more. MOTs, repairs, all of this kind of stuff. You don't even have to worry about it. So this is an incredible way for you to save yourself an absolute fortune without having the high costs that are related to motoring nowadays. So I hope this has helped people. There's another cheat code for you guys to save yourself a fortune. Get living in a van, because it truly can change your life like it has mine. I hope this has helped people. If you've got any other questions, just let me know and I will do my best to get back to you. I'll see you on the next video.